Hello everyone. Very good morning. Alright, just a minute. And all right. Very good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are doing amazing. I hope you guys had a beautiful weekend. From wherever you're from, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. I hope the markets are as well treating you guys beautifully, I must say. So just in a minute, let's just give a few seconds to a few guys to just join into the Calvary. Then we can go down into the market and see what the market does have for us as far as today's opportunities are definitely concerned. In the meantime, I would like to remind you that all the views shared here are not financial advice, but on the other hand, you can definitely be able to use that information for education purposes or to help you probably better your analysis through the day and align it as well. So in just about a minute, I'll get underway with today's session from wherever you're watching from. Those on X, morning to you guys, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you're watching from as well. So in just a second. Okay. So as usual, the first thing that we do want to start with is going to be looking at what fundamentals are definitely up through the day. It's always very, very important and very crucial. Whether you do trade fundamentals or you do not trade fundamentals, it's always very important to know what the market definitely has for the day, because then you know when to look for opportunities, when to stay out of the market, and of course when to capitalize on the volatility the market tends to offer at those different instances. So as far as you can see on my chart right now, I would not have a lot of news events that may trigger through the day, but we do have some major events, and one of them is going to be the Fed chair Powell's speech that will come in at 3:30 p.m. Now, why this is very important, especially at times like this, is the fact that, as we all know, Trump has been going back and front with the Fed because he really wants them to cut rates. He believes that time is now. He's had more than 2 quarters, and it's about time they save that dollar index that we have seen that has been crashing like crazy in the past few months, ever since, of course, his aggressive taxes came into play. On the other hand, we do have the governor of Bank of England who will be speaking to the day as well. Where is this? Yeah, ECB President Lagarde. Or there will be this, there's one at 12 that's supposed to happen. I think we can be able to see it this side on Forex Factory. So Forex Factory, they will show you Bank of England Governor Bailey will be giving a speech at 12:15. And for those of you that trade the Euro stocks or the Euro indices, you know that it has not been doing amazing. It has been falling, and today as well will be going into the red zones for power in the Euro stock markets. So those were other things that may most likely influence the market for guys who trade things like NASDAQ, S&P 500, probably what else will be there? Yeah, those who trade American stock indexes. We do have a headline here that says stock futures are to change after the S&P 500 posts another record close live updates. So for guys who don't know about this, the S&P tracks 500 biggest companies, and these 500 biggest companies cut across tech, Medicare. So generally, every industry. So why sometimes you find very many guys who trade NASDAQ and US 30 want to see what the S&P is up to. So they're telling you that futures tied to the Dow Jones industry average moved up 5 points or 0.1%. This is the S&P futures ticked down 0.3%, while NASDAQ 100 futures lost 0.08%. So one of the ways you can use this is when you track how the S&P 500 is moving, you can have a bigger picture on how NASDAQ is most likely going to move, or US static, was all those companies also included in the S&P 500. It's an index that tracks all those major stock indexes. So besides that, since we have not really, we don't really have any major news outlines, except for the speech that will be coming in. I did read a comment somewhere in a group chat where somebody is actually expecting that Jerome Powell may be coming to announce his resignation, which would probably be good for the dollar. Why is because, of course, if Jerome Powell happens to resign, then of course the Trump administration will definitely try to get in a paid chair that is going to carry out their objectives. In simple terms, it's going to help them cut rates. Right, sorry about that, guys. I had a bit of a technical issue at the back side. Sorry about that. So let's continue. So as I was saying, if Jerome Powell happens to definitely resign anytime soon, that will probably be good for the dollar, basically because then the Trump administration will definitely get somebody who will be more aligned with their objectives. So that's a fundamental perspective. Since we have a lot of fundamentals that are in sight right now, let's get down onto our technical analysis. So I'll be sharing my chart in a bit. Let's get down to analysis and see where the opportunities this week are most likely going to be lying. Basically because it's a Tuesday and it's a new week, so you can be able to see some fresh moves coming in for this same week. So I'm going to just share my chart in a minute, just a few seconds. Okay, so I'm just getting a template. Yeah, so as usual, I tend to advise when you start in your analytics, since many of us like trading a bit of volatility, that dollar index or the DXY is always an amazing currency pair. Or index, it's an index. Okay, the dollar index is an amazing thing to start with because it gives you an overview of where the dollar is most likely looking towards in simple terms. So as I mentioned before, we did have a dollar performing badly for quite some time. And this is predominantly most of last week, probably till 1st July. Then we happened to see a correction that was in for some few days after the non-farm payrolls came in. Then now we can say the past 2 days, that's last Friday and then Monday, of course, were very, very pretty bearish. So as usual, when the price is moving, I tend to target what we call supply and demand levels, because those are usually the targets and areas of interest, or what we would love to call decision levels. So if you look at the bottom here, we do have a nice demand level here, and we have one slightly below that, but of course price will have to first violate this demand level in order for it to look for anything below that. This being a daily time frame, you can be able to watch for if price is able to push us all the way into this demand level, which will be a good thing to watch. So now going down on top of our time frame, we are going to try to look for what areas can price be able to use if at all it's to push all the way to this demand level. So there's areas of interest that price can use as liquidity areas or areas of interest to be able to push and achieve this objective. So since this is our short-term target that we're looking at up here, price does not tend to move in one direction. It tends to have retracements and all that of the sort. So usually you expect it to give you a retracement into an area of interest from which it can be able to then go to the downside. Yeah, so when I look above this, I'm going to look for an area, probably in a 1 hour time frame that I can see that can probably push price all the way to the downside. And I look at my 1 hour time frame, I do have a minor supply level right above this level here. So let's just get it marked up. So we have the supply level that is very, very fresh. We did have a momentum breakout to the downside. So usually we tend to mark even these weeks just in case, and you can see price has been trying to push that area. So right now what we can be able to anticipate or to focus on that based on the movement that price is using to come back towards the supply level, you can see price is kind of in a ranging market. We tend to call it a ranging market or a correction move. So what we'd love to see is probably a 1 hour candlestick closure, then price can definitely continue pushing to the downside. Moving on to our third time frame, because what we're trying to achieve is what we tend to call top-down analysis. You want to have multiple levels on which you can take a sensible decision as well. So right now I want to look for the lowest low at the left-hand side, which will be this. So what we'd love to see is to look for sell opportunities. When price closes below this area here, is when you can then now start looking to pricing a few selling opportunities. So what we are trying to align at 3 different time frames, from the daily to the 1 hour to the 15-minute time frames. What we'd really love to see would be something like a price comes and closes below this area or this intermediate low, then definitely offers a retracement on which you shall look to enter the market and probably see price go to the downside. So it's always advisable to look for a confirmation of a sort whenever price gets to these areas or tries to achieve a structure of this nature. So it's always very interesting to just be able to be patient and try to something of this kind. For those of you who are familiar with concepts like ICT, you will tend to have something called trend line liquidity. And you can see that if price happens to break below this low, it would have broken below this trend line. And at the same time, it would have been able to break below a support level. Let me just get that marked out. So when you look at this clearly, we do have some kind of support level that is right below over there. So price fall is definitely able to also break below that support level. So you realize that you're having, by the time price breaks below this area and comes for retracement, it has definitely achieved, given you multiple confluences that it wants to go lower from that point onwards. So unless otherwise, and Powell gives us something very positive from his speech at 3 p.m. Sorry, that's East African time, of course. If Powell happens to give us some kind of news that the American investors will be pleased with, then you can definitely see the DXY, the dollar index, push to the upside and hopefully break above this supply level here. Then we can wait for that retracement in and look for that push all the way to the upside. These are the only alternatives I'll be looking at when it comes to trading the dollar index. So now the beauty of the dollar index is that I can be able to use the same perspective and see if it tends to align with dollar related pairs. I'm talking the likes of GBP USD, Euro USD, NZD USD, AUD USD. There's a variety of those USD pairs that you can tend to correlate with the dollar index. Now, all you're correlating is the perspective or the direction in terms of your general directional bias, or you're anticipating the market to move in that particular direction. So now that we have seen the dollar index from here, we have two perspectives. We have one where price may come break below this trend line and break below the support level consequently, or one where price can continuously push to the upside, break above the supply level, give us a nice retracement or retest, as you may call it, then definitely continue pushing all the way to the upside. Now, usually, those are good trade patterns can be able to that. Here you have a pattern of this nature here, and usually we have this kind of, I don't know if they're called pennants. I believe some people call them pennants, some people call them ascending triangles, and different ways you tend to call them. When you tend to have something like this and price consolidates within this range, if it breaks out to the upside, it's going to retest and push to the upside. So you can see a similar kind of sequence forming within this, and that's just in case price breaks to the upside. But similarly, price can still break below this support level and this trend line. Check out this trend line liquidity to the downside, and definitely continue with that bearish sentiment that we have been seeing ever since Trump escalated his tariff wars per se. So now that we have seen these two perspectives, we can now go ahead into some currency pairs that are related or dollar related. Try and see if we can be able to align and get something or anticipate something that may definitely play out in our week. Let's just have this over here. Beautiful. So now it's a Euro USD or the Euro US dollar. And usually when I come to currency pairs, the first thing I'll do is because I don't let it in Monday opportunities. I know that people have the same ideologies whereby they feel like Monday is a low volume day, so the week starts usually on Tuesday when you anticipate the price. It's going to form either the high or the week, or it's going to move towards the high or the low of the week on that particular day. So now let's see what the weekly time frame shows us. So last week, we did see that price came to a major demand level for the guys who are in the market snapshots that I did post last week. We had this demand level here, and so price came and tapped into it and then started pushing to the upside, which is a good sign. So when I say that demand levels tend to push price to the upside, now that price did that, you can now come out to a lower time frame. Let me just edit this just a minute. So I think this is much more flexible. All right, so just a minute. So when price came into this demand level, as you can see over here, it tapped and then it pushed to the upside after forming last week's low. Of course, now we have a new week, and yesterday was a very bullish day. We did see price come and try to create a new demand level over here. Though we are still bullish and we can be definitely on price going to come back to definitely retrace that. So that means all we are left with is just a bullish sentiment for the rest of this week. Though you can expect a retracement within the future. So right now the currency price is having some kind of what we call shaky price action. And as you all know, we have the whole Euroflation thing going on right now. We have Lagarde speaking, we saw Bailey speaking, and the headlines lately the euro is having a major issue when it comes to tariffs, and they're affecting not just the euro stocks but also the euro currency pair itself. So I just need to get an object here. So coming to look at this, we have multiple levels in between the side down the downside where price can be able to push and probably continue pushing to the upside as well. So now it's just going to depend on what Lagarde says and what, of course, Bailey tends to mention. But what we can look at in terms of technical analysis is that we have a nice demand level that aligns with this breakout level over here. And we have this nice demand level. So this would be the best opportunity to look for buy or the best area of interest for you to try and anticipate some or look for some buy opportunities. Remember, it's all reliant upon confirmation. So if price happens to come into this zone here and probably give you a lower time frame confirmation, highly advisable for you to look for, then you can probably see push to the upside. But on the other hand, price may not necessarily move in one direction. When you try to look at the different confluences or the patterns that the price is trying to give us, we could have a trend line somewhere above that. Now, when you notice where that trend line actually happens to be, we do have a resistance level right below it. We do have a resistance level right below that particular trend line. We do have this level right below that trend line. So this is our trend line to the upside, and this is a resistance level. So alternatively, if price doesn't happen to come back to this demand level, it could as well break above this resistance, above this trend line, give us a nice and beautiful retest, and then definitely push to the upside. So it's always beautiful for you to have alternatives, because then you're not hinged onto one perspective in the market, because you never really know where the market is going or what it's most likely going to do, what the big banks are planning on doing. So since you don't have that, all you can have is idea on how the market mechanics actually work. So it's how the market mechanics tends to work. So this is something I'll be looking at on Euro USD. We have nice beautiful touches on this trend line. 1, 2, 3, 4 nice beautiful touches. This resistance level also shows that it's very significant or very, very strong. When you look at the kinds of rejections that's offering us here, we have respected, we have a nice rejection here, and nice rejection here. Now, I want you to remember very well that if the dollar index happens to sell then we shall anticipate that the Euro USD is going to buy. They are inversely correlated. Now, if you look at this analysis and you're looking for these buy opportunities, you can now easily be able to relate it to what the dollar index is definitely trying to show us. If you have a break below this support level and price goes to the downside, we'll basically be looking to have something similar on this side, but the opposite direction, break above the resistance, and retest and push to the upside. So I don't know if you guys are able to factor that in carefully, but that's the significance of using currency index pairs. So Euro USD will be the perspective I'm going with this week. You can feel free to try and align it with your analysis as well. Remember, this is not financial advice of any sort. The purpose is for you guys to be able to supplement it on your trading endeavor as well. Hopefully, get some opportunities within the market. So, still within the dollar pairs, I usually love looking at about $2-3 pairs whenever we are here. So, let's look at GBP USD. And why I would love to look at GBP USD is because it can easily give us the best possible option between GBP USD or Euro USD, since they both tend to correlate, not always, but they tend to correlate more often, right? So that means that occasionally you can get one of the two pairs having the best possible opportunity for you to take in, or the better, or the much more visible opportunity. Because sometimes the market, you may have a direction and you fail to actually get the right buy area or sell area. Depends on the current situation. So now, unlike on Euro USD, where I've seen a full structure fully formed, last week I think also did have a demand level here. Yeah, we did have a demand level, nice one here. This one I would time frame usually, because remember when you come to these Tuesday sessions or the Monday sessions, depends on the one I host of that week. But whenever I have these sessions, there we first start with our weekly perspective, because we usually have at the beginning of the week. Now, what this tends to show us is that you can really know what to anticipate where the week is most likely good. So just imagine if I know that this week is going to be a bullish candlestick, I know it must form a low somewhere in between. That means that I can use the lower time frames to my advantage to try and capitalize on either the low of that week, or to identify when that low has already been formed or high, depending on what direction that weekly candle is most likely going to go to. Then from there onwards, I can be able to take the opportunities towards the desired direction. So coming down to a daily time frame, now we do have a very similar structure to what we actually happen to see on Euro USD. We do have what looks like a minor breakout from here. Of course, these are demand level, but this being a daily time frame, price may not directly come back to fill this in. It can decide to as well continue buying to a desired level. Usually, it's going to be in the next time frame. Continue buying to a desired level, probably around here, before it gives us a nice deep retracement. But now when I come to a 4-hour time frame, what am I going to notice? I do have a breakout over here. Very nice breakout over here. Then I'm going to look for areas of interest on my 1-hour time frame right below that. So all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to align my analysis together with Euro USD and just see if I can have the similar objectives. When I come to this, I'm going to find what they call a support to resistance flip in most cases. Whether they are good at them, some worldwide I still will call this a breaker block. So the concept is exactly the same. This would be a breaker block and to still act as a failed supply level that price would come to. Now this is on 1-hour time frame. Now I want to see if this bullish move I'm seeing to the upside would happen to hold price. Now when you start realizing, you're going to realize that again GBP USD has a much more clear, may be able to form much more clear opportunities or much more clear structures pushing to the upside. So let's try to navigate these opportunities and see how best they may come around. So I'm going to go down to a 15-minute time frame and try to see what are the short-term or near insight structure that I can be able to capitalize on. So when you look at this kind of retracements, as I mentioned on the DXY and even the Euro USD when we're starting, when you see this kind of choppy market movement coming toward the high time frame area of interest, it happens to be a correction. And from just basic price action, I think we all know that when there's a correction move, there is going to be an impulsive move. But because it's an impulsive move, you don't want to enter the market out of impulse. You want to have a systematic way of entering. That's why if you've heard of something called mechanical strategies, it's basically because there is a system you're following. If this happens, I'll look for this, I'll look for this, and I'll take my trade based on ABCD as my particular criteria. That's what it means to have a mechanical system. And of course, the mechanical system is how you're able to stay out of the bad trades, the losing trades, able to counter bad winning streaks as well. It's something that you should look into. It's very, very, very interesting and could, of course, be very, very helpful when it comes to elevating yourself in your trading career. So if I look at this, I do have a trend line, nice and beautiful one. Then I do have, once again, a supply level. Now, all I'm doing with this, I'm just building up what they call technical confluences. I'm just using basic technical analysis onto my price action to look for confluences that can definitely give me some kind of sense in terms of what the market is going. Remember, it's an algorithm, so the patterns repeat themselves time and time again, though they will tend to look different. And sometimes there will be a lot of market conditions that may trigger them. So looking at this is what I would love to look at going forward. I would like to see a very beautiful break above both the trend line and that particular supply level. It could even still work as a resistance level. For those of you who are like marking support and resistance levels, I like calling it SNR. You can see we have a rejection, break above, a small slightly retest, price comes down, loses momentum, rejects, comes down, tries to go through, rejects, comes down, rejects, consolidates right at that level there before it breaks below, retests, goes to the downside, showing that this is a strong resistance level at the same time. It aligns with the supply level we have at that particular price point. So this earnings area is so strong, so you don't want to buy below this area. Trust me, you do not want to buy below this area. If you wanted to look for a buy, it's safer for you to probably wait for that breakout to the upside and then a next retracement or a beautiful retest to that particular area before we can see a push or a pump to the upside. So this is something we really want to see. So alternatively, let me just first get rid of this. Alternatively, when you look right below this area, you're going to see a nice demand level that you can in turn be able to use as well. So we have this nice demand level here. The price can also decide to use on specific occasions. So it can use either this resistance level here after breaking above to course to become a support level, or we can as well have this demand level. Get price first, break above the resistance first. You can be able to use that particular price level to definitely achieve the same objectives or the same market direction. So that's our JPY USD, and you realize that's also giving us a similar approach. We do have an approach we can follow together with Euro USD and the dollar index or the USD index. All right, so this is as far as our JPY USD is concerned. So I think at this juncture we can definitely put a bit of dollar or Trump's economy to the side and look a bit at other pairs. So one of my other favorite pairs, those of you who have been here for some time, has always been GBP USD. And the reason was why personally I love this pair is because it gives me some kind of volatility, and not as much as gold, but it can give me a good volatility that I can be able to use to usually be able to get some nice, okay, let's have this. Gives me some good number of pips on a daily basis. If you've heard of something called the ADR or the average daily range, so it has a very nice ADR range, probably usually between 150 to 200 pips. So you just imagine if a pair has the capability to move between 150 to 200 pips almost on a daily, that means you can be able to capitalize and get those nice beautiful trades of 30, 40, 50 pips, probably even 100 on some good days, depending on how the structures and the market decides to play around. So, okay. So now looking at GBP JPY currency pair, beautiful to start on the weekly time frame. Just have an idea on what the weekly candlestick may most definitely look like. When I look at this, we have been bullish for quite some time, very, very long time. For those of you that know about these lows, we had this deep retracement when we had what they call a manual intervention by the Bank of Japan. This was sometime last year. Then the Japanese yen has had a very hard time to recover after the pound has had a hard time to recover against the JPY ever since that manual intervention. So the manual intervention is it's a bit of a fundamental term used by central banks, especially the Japanese bank. Usually it influences the market in case their currency is being badly, like so badly. So looking at the weekly, we have had the previous 2 weeks very bullish, and then this week looks like must have trade off on a very, very high gear towards the upside. So one thing and one trick that you want to have every single time you're trading is do not fight that market. Do not fight that trend. That's something that's very unhealthy. and it can result into you sponsoring your own losses just by refusing to follow that trend. So when I look at this right now, in this small avenue over here, we have had some whole bit of consolidation of a sort. So it's something that's going to be tricky, and we'd like to see it on a lower time frame. Just a second. All right, it's not something that can give you a clear structure, except for knowing the fact that we are bullish. So what you're going to do in such pairs is you try to capitalize on way lower time frames, and preferably when I'm doing my top down analysis, the 4 hours is usually my minimum time frame, or it's my last resort in case I want to be able to trade a particular pair. So when I look at this right now, we see that our price has come off a very, very strong level from the downside that is facilitating this push to the upside as well. So there was strong, nice levels over here. So they have been indicated multiple times. As you can see, price did fail to close above this area. There was a nice correction. So if you go to a line chart, you're going to realize that here we have what would look like a breakout. If you guys can see this clearly, we have something that tends to look like a breakout. So the candlestick, it's a bit tricky to see. It will take some time to get used to as well. For those of you who are not familiar with this kind of analogy or approach to the market, you can get to seeing this as well. So if I look at the 30-minute time frame, I want to look for probably a demand level that's responsible for price breaking out of that area. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to say the first demand level here was already consumed or has already been used or mitigated based on what lingo strategy tends to use. So we do have this area that has already been consumed. That means price will most likely leave us with another demand area at this particular level. Remember, for price to give us a valid demand level, I will need to have a candlestick closure above that area. So what I've been looking for in GBP JPY, I'm going through today, especially because markets are now on lower time frames entirely, is a breakout, a close above that area, a nice beautiful retracement to this demand level. Then I can be able to hunt for a confirmation, or I can refine one of these areas to a 5-minute time frame to try and get the best possible area of interest where I can look for my confirmations. So if I come down to refinement, I'm going to notice that price did give me a shift from around this area here, and that's the area I would be looking to. And probably I would love to watch price come to that area and give me a confirmation. Remember, it's just an area of interest. How you choose to take confirmations will entirely depend on you, your knowledge, and your strategy on how you choose all these confirmations. The challenge you tend to get with strategy is that they tell you do ABCD a certain way, but in most cases you can be able to tweak it a little bit based on your concept. Strategies should be able to work different times in different areas of interest. So if you have a valid area of interest, regardless of what strategy you trade, you can be able to look for a confirmation and be able to capitalize on some of the possible market movements. So in the meantime, I would like to remind you guys, if you're in Uganda, we do have our second edition of the Trade Talk event this Saturday on the 26th of July, and the link is in the description. So kindly sign up, tell a friend, tell your cousin, tell everybody. I can bring your whole family along, extended nuclear. Just bring them along to the Trade Talk this event, and shall have a lot of insights to share with you guys. Of course, I'll be sharing with you guys a lot of information and a lot of strategies that can be able to try and definitely adapt to, refine through, and yeah, see how the market goes thereafter. So that's very nice. Of course, if you don't have your Expressor account, kindly use the same link in description to create that account as well. So this is my perspective as far as GBP JPY is concerned. So I'd like to drive a little bit onto the US dollar and the Japanese yen, just to see what the market will have to offer as well on this side. So this pair would have been like probably my fourth pair after GBP JPY, and after looking at gold, of course, my third pair I'm saying after GBP JPY, because sometimes you may not find the best possible structures on DJ, and you find yourself pushing towards $USD, and since it has both the dollar and the Japanese yen, it can easily be a good pick for you as well if you feel like it's something you can take up. So feel free to backtest USD JPY. It has very beautiful structures time and time again. And it's a pair you can rely on for quite some time as well. So if I come to look at what's happening right now in the market on a USD JPY, Now this one, what do we see here? We had a shift over this side on the left hand side, price close to the upside, and now it's giving us a nice beautiful retracement to the downside. So looking at what we have right now, we do have a supply level right above that area. So I'm going to want to refine this to its order block over here. So any idea of looking for buying opportunities will have to come about this particular area here. And once again, you're going to be able to see how you can confluence something of that nature here. So apparently this trend line happens to be stop bar. So what will definitely happen, this being a weekly time frame, or it's a weekly time frame, will be something coming, price coming over here, pushing to the downside and breaking above. But since this is a weekly time frame, this can take months, can take ages to ever reach that objective. So let's come down to a daily time frame. Here we have the previous candlestick week was bullish. Then this week costed in a bearish. Here we did have some highs formed yesterday. And just in case you didn't refine the supply level, important to mark the whole supply level, you can see price came slightly above this older high within the same supply level, and then it was able to push the downside. It's coming down to a daily time frame. You can still kick off your refinements as well. Then now we can look at what the market has to offer as far as this week is concerned. So we can say that yesterday price was very bearish, and today price stayed on a bullish note. But as we all know, most of the time the market is going to the upside, it's going to first form a lower week before it reverses to form at the body, then the upper week. So usually what you're going to do, you're going to mark areas below. In the first case scenario, we have this nice demand level here that will be a nice target for price to push towards to before it actually sets up on a rally to the upside. And then now looking at what areas can probably support price there. I hope might have been too late for this one, but then you can see that we did have a nice supply level here that was responsible for now starting this retracement or initiating that retracement move. That's probably hopefully going to push price to the downside. So just in case for the factors of confluencing, I can still have another trend line here. You can see minimum of 2 touches, but trust me, we have 3 touches on this. And now price coming touched again. And once again, we are met with this arc triangular, the triangular pattern, as we had seen on one of the pairs earlier as well. So what would we want to look at this particular point? We have a demand level right below here. Now, usually the demand levels below down here can act either the confirmation area for you to buy from, or area that you want to see price if it's going to break below and retest and push to the downside. So they're usually just reaction areas that you're going to watch and probably look for some patterns when price gets there that will either facilitate to give you the confidence to buy or sell any particular digital asset. Very, very crucial and very, very important. So USD JPY, this is what we would love to see. Probably either price breaks above, retests, pushes to the upside, or price breaks way below both the trend line and the support level and pushes to the downside. So sometimes price will actually respect these demand levels, then come and break above the resistance. That's also an alternative and a perspective that the market can actually be able to take up. So this still gets to JPY, so you can start pressure coming down to on a very high gear in a 15-minute time frame. Price had this kind of people quite a pick out in most cases because prices aggressively come out to the downside, trying to achieve its main objective below there. So once again, if you have any questions, last segment of this session is going to be dedicated to those questions. Kindly drop them down in the comment section. Then we shall see how to go about them as well. So let's look a bit out of currency pairs, and as usual, you all know gold is everyone's favorite. So it was a trade we had from a few weeks back. And yeah, for those of you that stayed in it, congratulations if you were able to take the opportunity and probably stay in the pair. You have a heart of steals. Personally, I couldn't hold a trade that long, but this is probably almost how long? It's literally almost a month or something. Oh no, like 2 weeks, probably like 2 weeks, yeah. Probably like 2 weeks of holding on gold. That's a tricky one. All right, so once again, the weekly time frame is your best spread in this scenario. All right, so as we could see, the weekly time frame, we did have two bullish weeks prior, then one bearish week. But the thing with this bearish week is that it forms some kind of like hammer. You can't open back that pattern that you're seeing there. So it forms this kind of pattern that shows that, of course, there were sellers involved, but the buyers later came back and overpowered the sellers and took control of the markets over time. So this week we got a very high gear to the upside, and now we want to see if we can get some opportunities in that particular direction, because where the market sentiment happens to be as we speak. So right now we can see prices instigating what would look like a retracement back into this area of the breakout. We do have this, and we do have this other area as well. Price is trying to actually reprice into these areas, continue pushing to the upside. So anything below this, I would probably only be looking. So opportunities that once again, you may really want to confluence some of the things you leave behind in simple terms. So yeah, you can have a look at something like that. You have a nice trend line to the downside that, of course, price can easily come and break below, but in the meantime, we are going to focus more on this demand levels coming down to 1 hour time frame. It's coming down to 1 hour time frame. So what do we see in gold USD? So you can see our demand level is down all the way here. So our demand level is on this side over here, and then we want to see if there are areas that price can easily use to go to the downside. Now, given the fact that we're in a bullish move, you don't want to negate the fact that price can buy up at any one time. When you know that trend the market is in, you never want to fight that trend. Trust me, from experience, it's going to hurt you big time and hurt your finances and your financial situation, of course. It's going to really be hard for you guys. So anyway, this is the trend line they have in the upside. So price looks like it's breaking above it. And once again, we do have what it looks like a supply level here. And that supply level there also beautifully aligns with our trend line to the downside. So what to see is a probably break above that area to continue this rally. Probably in highs beyond 402. And then definitely we can see probably a push to the downside at one perspective. And that we can hope for push price all the way to this area over here. So that perspective we are looking at. One drive price above this area. And of course, retracement and a push further up. And then this other one here will provide us some sort of opportunities through that we could want something of that nature. Nice retracement and then a push continuously to that downside. So the perspective we want to really look at on gold now going into this week, and just in case. So why we mark areas of interest like this is because you want to be a reaction trader. When you're a reaction, you're going to react for a system. In simple terms, price gets to this area, performs ABCD, performs a shift, change of characters, man money reversal, gives me a pin bar, gets my trend line. All those can be different strategies just embedded on this. Because the idea is going to have a whole perspective of top-down analysis. Yeah, so that's as far as gold is concerned. So let's look at the NASDAQ classically. Then we get into our 1-2 questions and see how best we can call it a day or a morning, I say. All right, so now as look at NASDAQ 100 here, we can see that it has had some nice rally quite some time. If you remember very well, there's a few weeks back when it was really dropping. I think it had gone back below 15,000, and right now it's all the way back to 23,125. So looking at the daily time frame, we know that we have been so bullish on NAS 100, especially when we have been so bullish on NAS 100, especially after that Iran-Israel. war particularly, because what is happening is that people are investing a lot in military stocks to fund the Iran-Israel conflict, and we saw that NASDAQ was able to create new all-time highs within that particular period of time of the Iran-Israel conflict. So now, right now, what we're seeing is on the daily time frame, we do have a retracement trying to come in to this particular area. There have a demand level here. Price seems to be coming back into that area for retracement. So this is generally where we want to look for buy opportunities from, and it's nicely marked on. So you can be looking for some buys into this area. Right below this, we don't think we have any serious demand level as far as I can see here. What we do have is something of this nature here. Both by the full bullish on this, so I don't want to say right below this area. But of course, if it happens, we want to get the opportunity of sell. I'm just looking for opportunities of selling on 100. You don't want to buy that trend, not now, not tomorrow, not ever. If it ever gives you something, then it's probably out of luck, but you do not want to find the market. You do not want to fight the market. So it's a demand level we're going to be watching out for as far as NAS 100 is concerned. And remember, when price gives an impulse in a correction, you always want to have an impulse that gives you a beautiful pattern. This triangle that I don't know yet, but it's the one you want to always be seeing when price gives you a nice beautiful rejection, comes back into the demand level and then continues buying to the upside. So this is NAS 100, very nice, interesting pair. Also, we like trading it in the NYSE. Yes, so besides that, if you have a question or two, you can feel free to put them in the chat section before we call it a day. So I would like to remind you guys once again that the trade talk with Uganda is happening this 26th of July, and we shall be starting at 10 a.m. So kindly feel free to register with our link in the description, and then we can meet on Saturday in person and get to learn a thing or two. On the other hand, don't forget to create your HSPC account today. You're the best broker in East Africa, and then we can be able to assist you as well in other endeavors as far as trading is concerned. All right, so I think apparently we don't have any questions in this for today. So allow me to call it a day and wish you guys a peaceful day and a peaceful week. And yes, stay blessed everyone. Have a nice time.